PassionTimes.hk。
Hi everyone, welcome back to the English part of the show. Today I'm gonna talk about a TV series, and I just realized they talked about it this afternoon. Because I didn't have time to record this earlier, but then last week, did I tell you guys? Yeah, last week I think I already said what I was gonna talk about, but I didn't make a video in the end last week. So I was gonna postpone it to this week, and then I realized they talked about the same thing this afternoon. But anyway, it's gonna be different since I'm doing this in English. Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about The Sandman, the TV series The Sandman. I wasn't actually going to watch it. Well, I knew they were making The Sandman into a TV series. Actually, they talked about making it into a movie quite some time ago, but then they didn't. And they ended up, Netflix ended up doing an adaptation for The Sandman. And yeah, so I wasn't going to watch it like right away, and I didn't know when it was going to air, but the other day when I opened Netflix, I realized that it was on. So I was like, okay, Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite authors of all time, so I thought I should watch it, because Neil Gaiman is in the production of the show too, so I wanted to watch it. And yeah, and they actually added a bonus episode this afternoon, and sometime today I saw them announce, and but I haven't had time to watch it yet because I have to make this video and upload it. So yeah, I will probably watch it later. And yeah, so Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite authors, but I actually didn't read The Sandman because it's a graphic novel or comic, whatever you want to call it, and I didn't read it because I didn't know where to find it. Yeah, and and if you guys probably all know who Neil Gaiman is. I think even our boss did an episode about him. Did an episode about American Gods a few years ago. We were selling the novel too for a bit. So yeah, I read American Gods, and I didn't finish watching the series. I think I probably watched 2 or 3 episodes of the series, partly because I didn't think it was as good as the book, and partly because back when it was on, it wasn't on any of the actual streaming services and that I could access, so I had to watch from pirated sources, which I didn't like much. So I didn't finish watching it. And most of the times the screen adaptations are usually never as good as the original. So yeah, since I didn't read The Sandman, the original Sandman, so I thought I could go into it with new, fresh eyes, and yeah, so I thought since I didn't read the original, I wouldn't complain about it so much, but I guess I was wrong. I'll give the conclusion first. Do I recommend it? actually think it's alright. I don't know how it is compared to the comic, but I think in general, the whole season, after watching the whole season, I think it's watchable. In conclusion, the first half was pretty much unbearable. The second half got so much better. So if you have time, I think you can watch it. And also in general, the imagery is really nice. The CG and all that. Because the Sandman basically is... Do you guys know the myth about... I don't even remember where that myth is from. Like, in a myth that there would be people that throw, or a god or a deity that throws sand in your eyes and make you sleep and dream and all that. So that's the Sandman. And obviously this series, this comic is about the Sandman, who's the god, lord of dreams. So it's about dreams. So they have to make the imagery pretty because you get dreamy landscapes and dreamy images, vision, all that. So it's quite, I guess it's quite beautiful, the imagery, not the people though. The people, I don't think any of them are beautiful. And also I think it is a little, overall it's a little slow. Like even, like the whole thing, the pace of the whole thing is quite slow. Like for the first half, I actually watched it in 1.5 times the speed. And the second half I watched in 1.25 the speed. And it felt quite natural. So I think it's just... Wait, what's that? Okay, never mind. So yeah, so it's just slow. And normally I don't really watch anything in a higher speed because I feel like if you have to watch it in higher speed, or if you have to fast forward it, if you have to skip through a film or TV series or whatever, then you don't like it that much, then you don't bother to waste your time. So most of the time, if I ever have to fast forward or watch it at high speed, then I just don't bother watching it. Like, why waste your time? Like, if you're watching it for fun, if you're watching it for a show, for doing a show, then of course you would need to watch it faster. But I was watching this for fun, and well, I wanted to finish it, so I endured the slowness of the series. And but I do think the story is quite nice. The story is, well, it's Neil Gaiman stories, and his stories are always nice. And there are always things to think about or ponder upon with his stories. So that's the part that I do like. So let me dive into more details. So the first half of the series. So there are 10 episodes in the first season. There could be a second season. They want to make a second season, but Neil Gaiman said that Netflix hasn't decided on a second season yet because they're waiting for the first month of and see how popular it is. I think they aired it on August 5th, so we probably won't know if there's a second season or not until September. So the first part's basically the introduction to the character and the worldview, and so the main character, Dream, the Sandman, or Lord Morpheus, well, let's just call him Dream, is a god deity. Well, he's in a group of gods called the Endless, and he has death, desire, despair, destiny as his siblings. And the worldview is that so the part where Dream reigns, the realm is called the Dreaming, and basically, so to keep the world in balance, like even the waking world in balance, we need dreams to keep the waking world in balance. And in the first part of the story, Dream was captured in the early 20th century England, and his magical tools were taken away, and he was locked up for a century before he could break free, and he had to go find the tools that were taken from him. And so basically it was just the first half was just introducing him and him retrieving his tools from different people, different parts of the world and all that. And the first part is really, really, really bad. The story itself actually isn't bad, but the pace of the story is really way too slow. And also, it's so woke. I do not understand. I mean, like, this comic book, I know I haven't read it, but apparently it was really, really popular in the 80s. I mean, like, it's not popular in the very a very traditional sense of way. I mean, it's not like Superman or Batman kind of popular, but it's popular among a group. And I mean, like, it's quite a well-known story. And you know, with the comics, they have crossovers, and the characters would be in different comics, and like so there is this worldview, there's a multiverse. And so there are quite a lot of characters that people have known for like 30 years, because this was written in the 80s and the 90s. And so people who read the comics would have known the characters as how they were originally for 30 years already. And they suddenly decided to change a lot of the characters. Even though for the time being, at least in the first season, the characters that were changed didn't appear that much. So it didn't impact the story, the actual storytelling that much yet. Well, actually, no. There was one character. Okay, so let me talk about what characters got changed. So John Constantine is supposed to be in this series, and John Constantine is as in John Constantine in the movie Constantine. So yeah, they changed John Constantine into Joanna Constantine. apparently Joanna Constantine in the comic multiverse exists as well, is a relative of John Constantine, or yeah, something like that. But in the comic, it was John Constantine in The Sandman. But yeah, they changed it to Joanna Constantine. And I think she appeared in like maybe 2 or 3 episodes. And I guess it hasn't impacted the story that much yet. But even for me who never read the comic, it felt a little weird, because even though I didn't read the comic, I knew Constantine, like John Constantine, supposed to be in this series or in this comic. So they changed John Constantine into Joanna Constantine. And then there's also the librarian of the dreaming. It's supposed to be a man, Lucian. They changed him into Lucienne, which is a woman, which appears quite a lot throughout the series or throughout the first season. There's also Lucifer, like Lucifer as in the devil, which is also supposed to be the Lucifer in the series Lucifer. It's that Lucifer. And they changed Lucifer into a woman. And the woman is a very motherly kind of woman. Also, well, she has a really like angelic face, but it's a little weird that they changed Lucifer into a woman as well. But also, I don't know how big a part Lucifer played in the original, but in the series, I guess it was alright. It didn't really hurt the story, but it's still a little weird. And there's also Desire. Desire in the comic, is he or she was already an androgynous being, and in the series, he's a non-binary character, which to me seemed fine. I mean, like androgynous and non-binary. Androgynous in the old times means non-binary today, I guess. So I don't have much beef with that casting, and I think I felt like Desire was casted quite well out of all these changes, all these character racial changes or even sex changes. The one character that a lot of people had beef with was Death, because in the comic, Death was she's a very slim, probably quite beautiful looking, white gothic girl who's quite perky, bubbly, happy, but goth looking girl. And they found a very, how should I say it? It's a little offensive, but they found a very plain looking black woman to play that part. I mean, like being gothic and looking very gothic, but being very perky and bubbly in personality creates a nice contrast. And I think it was one of the characters that people like a lot in the comic, and they changed her into a black woman. And I don't know, it felt very bland. The character became very bland because a very plain looking black woman being bubbly and happy and perky is very normal, I guess. But for a white, beautiful goth girl to be bubbly and perky is interesting, a nice contrast. So I don't think they casted that character that well. And also, the story, at least the first part of the story, a lot of it was set in early 20th century England, or even there were parts that went even further back, went back to the medieval times. And there were black people. I mean, like, I don't have any problem with black people if they're in the right time period. But why would there be black people in medieval times? I mean, like, I got so distracted when I was watching it. Like, I don't know. Why? Like, black people in the medieval times who were also not slaves. I mean, I'm not saying that black people should be slaves, but like, we know in history, I don't even think there were black people in the medieval times in Europe. Were there? I doubt it. Well, at least I never read about it in my history books. I don't know. Anyway, so these parts were all very distracting for me. That just pulled me away from actually watching the storyline. Okay, there's also, but the first part, the kind of the ending of the first part was nice. Like, there's a story, like that part of the story is quite nice, because there's a part about where Dream had to find his ruby, which was one of his tools, and it was fallen into the hands of this guy who thought that the world was filled with lies and all that, and that's people are not supposed to lie, people are supposed to be like super truthful and all that. Well, basically in the end, everyone who got affected by him died, but I shouldn't be telling you the story if I wanted you guys to watch it, but and then so the part of the story makes you think about how truthful one should be. I mean, like, there's this contradiction between lies and dreams and all that, and makes you think. But, well, that part of the story, I don't know how much they changed from the original. I don't understand why they had to make even, like, a lot of the couples, so most of the couples in the series were same-sex couples, which I don't have a problem with. It's just that they aren't the majority in the real world. So why make them the majority in the series? Like, if same-sex couples were the majority of the world, the population would be so much lower. Like, there wouldn't be so many people in the world right now. People would go extinct. And in that part of the story, somehow they made even the same-sex, even the straight people become lesbian or gay. So it's like, what? Why? Anyway. So the second half of the series was actually better. At least I found it to be better. It's still a little slow. I still watched it in 1.25 speed, but it feels like the second half is where the actual story begins. So it was about Dream trying to restore the dreaming, and there were some dreams and nightmares that were missing from the realm, and there's a dream vortex who's a human being who are like creating things in dreams but making it appear in reality and breaking the barrier between dreams and the reality and all that. And and how Dream had to stop it from happening, or else the world would just collapse. And this part is quite nice, and the characters were all written quite nicely too. So I don't have a problem with the second half as much as the first half. And I really do enjoy the second half. And after watching the second half, I do want to see a second season I do want to see how the characters would develop, or how the story would go on after watching the second half, because they were like there were more interesting characters which were more true to the original in the second half than the first half. But so this series, it created a lot of debate online even before it came on, because the trailer was on and people started to see what people were playing which character, and then people were complaining, especially diehard fans of the comic, because they found out a lot of the characters that they grew up with, they grew up loving, were changed. And Neil Gaiman actually ended up trying to defend the whole thing. I guess Neil Gaiman himself was, I wouldn't say he's woke. I don't know if he's woke now, but back in the old days, I mean, like, he's quite progressive. He writes a lot about very unconventional things. I mean, like, if you guys watched or read American Gods, like, there were a lot of very controversial maybe couples, or just a lot of controversial things. And even in writing, even in words, he made it very graphic, and there's a lot of he was just before his time, like back 30 years ago. And even in the original story, there were a lot of like interracial couples and a lot of same-sex couples as well, which was very progressive 30 years ago. But nowadays, of course, it's like just normal. It's just the social norm already. So I don't know if he's like very woke, as in the very leftist kind of woke, but he defended the casting. He said they did colorblind casting, and so he approved of all these changes. But I feel like if this original story was already so progressive with the original like interracial couples and original same-sex couples, it's quite pointless to just force more black people or force more women into the series. Like, you don't have to race change them, you don't have to sex change them. I mean, like, the story itself, the original itself was progressive enough. Even back 30 years ago, it was progressive. Nowadays, you would call it woke. But, so yeah, the original is already woke enough. So why bother with all these race changes and sex changes that displeases fans? Because fans, in a way, it's even worse that it was a comic turned screen adaptation instead of just a novel turned screen adaptation, because in novels at least you only get a description in words, so you would have an imagined character in your mind. And if the screen adaptation comes out and the character's different from what you imagined, at least you would just think, oh, okay, maybe I imagined wrong. But this was an actual comic. We had actual characters drawn out and you know how they're supposed to look like, you know how they're supposed to feel like, and you put it onto a screen and you just change the whole character. It's basically not the same character anymore. I mean, like, you can say the deep down, like, the inside of the character is the same, but then we knew these characters from the comic, so we didn't even have to imagine. We just look at the comic and look at the cast and we see the very obvious differences. And also, you know, I was talking about how Death was in the comic book was supposed to be a white girl, gothic, but really bubbly, perky. She was actually based on Neil Gaiman's friend, and we know how Neil Gaiman's friend looked like. She looks like Death in the comic book. And he decided, well, Netflix and Neil Gaiman decides that a black girl can play that part, which is, I don't get it. So why the race change? Neil Gaiman said, when we are casting for Death, there are like 100 people coming, all really white, really goth, so they're all not very special. So it's like, why don't we put in a black girl for a change? But she's just way too far from the original. I don't know. And also Lucifer, in my mind, is supposed to look like the Lucifer in the TV series Lucifer, which I really like, by the way. And you know, back when they were writing the comic, Neil Gaiman wanted Lucifer to look like David Bowie. But now in the screen adaptation, they cast a woman, very angelic looking woman for the part, which it just baffles my mind. Yeah, so the problem I have with it, because I didn't read the comic, so I probably wouldn't be as angry as Alvin and Henry and them. I haven't watched them talking about it yet. I only saw the chat room because I was busy, so I haven't watched it yet. And because I already prepared for tonight's show, I didn't want to be I didn't want them to lead my thoughts away from what I want to say, so I don't know how much of what I talked about okay, I guess we probably talked about the same things, but I'm probably more lenient towards the show than them. They probably really, really absolutely hated it. I'm okay with it. I'm not okay with the change of the characters, but I'm okay with the series in general. I would give it a 6 or 7 out of 10. And yeah, I if you guys have time, let me think. I feel like it's actually better than this season's Umbrella Academy. Because for this season's Umbrella Academy, I had to fast forward through a lot of it. So, at least this, I watched the whole thing. I didn't fast forward anything, I just watched it at a higher speed. But Umbrella Academy, I actually had to fast forward. So, yeah, I don't think it's that bad. And I do like the story, and I am hopeful for the next season. If there is a next season, I'll watch it. So, yeah. So, if you guys have watched it, or if you guys have watched it, let me know and tell me what you think about it. And if you guys haven't watched it yet and decide to watch it after listening to me talk about it, tell me what you think after watching it, okay? So yeah, talked a long time already. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for watching. Bye.
喺劈啪樂壇嘅時間啊，咁咧就好耐冇練到琴啦，咁啊要練下，因為咧小弟咧翻去師傅度咧，就每個月上翻1-2堂咧，就同啲師兄弟嘅 jam 歌啊，即係好似即係刺手、度手、過手咁樣，咁就勉強都招架到嘅，咁耐冇練，但係都想再好啲嘅。咁啊練沙天多。One。呢度係。個 head 就咁樣啦，跟住咧就呢度考功夫啊，鋪滿佢擴通。好難諗啊呢度。 speed 啊！三四一二三。如果你要用3連音，你開一個 section 出嚟彈晒個3連音啦。這右手有排練，要練到呢邊第3拍係3連音，頭先係練緊，都係淨係行 A 段啫。哎呀，少個拍，3、4、2、3、4。哎呀，練鳩晒大啦，80咋？ 少撚咗啊！多滯，但係勉強啦，勉強 OK 嘅。2、3、4，1、2、3、4，1、2、3、4，1、2、3、4。練住咁多先，陣間再練。喺劈啪樂壇嘅時間啊，咁咧就係呢個湘傑大撚鑊嘅時段啦。大撚鑊咧就係因為就係做唔切啲功課，做唔切啲功課咧，唯有咧就節目時間嗰度做啊。咁啊就係貫徹呢個 slow TV 嘅精神啦。咁樣就真係未作曲就講粗口，因為真係未作曲。即係之前前個禮拜就有聽眾啦，就話作呢個 kiss 嘅 contrafact， 但係咧我都係未有時間去做嘅，咁就會做嘅，因為24節氣嘅歌咧係要作嘅，因為我真係唔撚識背。咁咧就有啲同學已經 share 大陸嗰啲24節氣歌啊，咁樣都幾撚值得參考嘅咁樣。咁就咁啊，事不宜遲啊！點解話湘傑大撚鑊咧？因為未做功課，咁樣嗰份功課應該就好快做完嘅，但係咧就一直都其實的唔起心肝做，真係好撚廢嘅，好撚鬧情緒啊咁樣，咁就咁啊禮拜四晚嘅即係禮拜五嘅凌晨咧就 deadline 啊，咁依家咧就係禮拜四嘅中午嚟嘅，禮拜四嘅即係13:00嚟嘅，大概係咁咧就咁而家就會開始做啦。咁禮拜四咧原本咧我諗住落咗堂之後咧，即係頭先落咗堂之後，我諗住開工啦。如果唔係咧，我就冇錢嘅啦。但係咧因為要交功課啦，所以就要晏啲先開工啦。咁希望唔會揾少到錢啦，我夜啲先收啦，咁樣就係外賣仔嘅生活啦，咁樣咁就睇下用幾多時間去做咯。咁嗰份功課咧就叫做簡答題啊，答呢個簡述呢個陰陽學説嘅基本內容咁樣。咁其實就唔出得街嘅呢啲功課，但係我求其揾啲練琴嘅片遮鳩咗佢啦，咁樣就係啦，咁樣1000種方法嘅咁樣俾大家睇下。試簡述陰陽學説嘅基本內容咁樣。簡答題咧其實真係抄書嘅啫，但係即係佢睇你，即係佢嗌你抄一次，跟住等你熟啲，而且要撮寫嘅其實咁樣啦。我做咗少少，讀俾大家聽下。陰陽是指世界一切事物互相對立嘅兩種基本屬性，既可以是指一種事物嘅內部嘅兩種對立屬性，又可以指兩種互相對立嘅事物或者現象。係啦，佢冇舉例子嘅喎，佢有個 textbook definition 嘅喎，我睇下先。唉。 左為陽，右為陰，南為陽，北為陰，都係相對嘅。天為陽，地為陰。上升為陽，下降為陰。係啊，簡述緊呢個陰陽學說基本內容啊。運動為陽，靜止為陰。興奮為陽。咁呢，就係運動為陽，靜止為陰。興奮為陽，抑制為陰。以人而言，男為陽，女為陰。氣為陽，血為陰，等等。好，繼續啦。咁呢，陰陽學說的基本內容。陰陽學說的基本內容包括陰陽交感，等間要撮寫咩乜撚嘢係陰陽交感嘅？有6種啊。係啊，有6種啊。陰陽唔對立，陰陽互根，陰陽消長，陰陽轉化，陰陽自和。好。
宇宙萬物發生。 係啊，好，第二點啦，讀一次，讀一次啊，讀一次，讀一次。陰陽交感是指陰陽二氣在運動中互相感應、互相作用，並交通相合，從而化生宇宙萬物，是天地萬物化生的基礎。例如陽氣升為天，陰氣降為地，天之陽氣下降，地之陽氣上升，化成陽光和雨水，使各種生命生長繁衍。雌雄交感和合，化生生命等等，係啦。如果唔寫一次咧，我覺得我自己未必識嘅解釋咩叫陰陽，其實係啦。咁啊，陰陽對立。 陰陽對立是指陰陽一分為二，互相對待和相反的關係，例如天與地啦、日和月啦、男和女啦、水和火等等。天地萬物都普遍存在一相對立相反嘅兩個方面。陰陽對立唔係惡性嘅競爭，而係通過互相嘅制約，使雙方都不至於過於抗性而為害，過猶不及。維持好似唔係好通咁。陰陽對立惡性嘅競爭，呢句咁嘅嘢。咁樣就靚仔啊，係啊。陰陽對立不是惡性嘅競爭、惡性嘅鬥爭，而係通過互相制約就維持陰陽之間嘅平衡，使雙方都不至於過於抗性，而為害，過猶不及。若其中一方太弱，不能制約另一方，甚或過強而對另一方太過制約，咁陰陽嘅平衡將受到破壞，使疾病產生。好，繼續。 哎呀，呢句出自邊度啊？呢句出自邊度？好似唔係呢度喎。喂啊，睇唔到啊！講出自邊度㗎？讀一次，陰陽互根是指陰中有陽，陽中有陰，雙方有互相依存、相輔相成的關係。呢個係陰陽互藏，你中有我。例如天為地氣升騰而成，地為天氣下降而成。同時陰為陽的根本，陽亦為陰的根本，例如氣為血之髓，血為氣之母，氣為陽，血為陰，氣為血之推動力， 血為氣的流動提供物質基礎，由此可見陰陽之間互為根本，相互依存，不可分離啊！唔好寫錯字啊！讀 master 啦，寫錯字醜死怪。氣為血之推動力，血亦為氣的流動提供物質基礎。唉，加個人字啦。好，繼續。陰陽消長。 寫咁撚多嘢屌！陰和陽並不是靜止的啊！呢、個講緊陰陽嘅消長。陰和陽並不是靜止的，而是在不斷消減和增長中變化、運動不息，並保持動態平衡。如一年之四季，寒暑往來交替，周而復始，如此陰陽的消減和增長處於正常的狀態。另一方面，由於陰陽互藏，陰中有陽，陽中有陰，兩者亦會此長彼長，也會此消彼亦消。此長彼亦長，也會此消彼亦消。例如人體飢餓氣力不足，乃出於精，即係陰啦，不足而不能生陽，即係氣啊，係啊，是陰除陽消的表現，即係此消彼亦消。而補充精，即係陰啦，而產生能量，即係陽啦，回復咗氣力之後咧，亦都係呢個陽除陰長，亦即係此長彼亦長啦。係，好啦，仲有兩點啦，就係陰陽轉化。 嗯嗯，係咁打錯字咧。 哇，好撚長，我讀一次。第五點，陰陽嘅轉化係指喺一定嘅條件之下咧，陰可以轉做陽，陽亦都可以轉到陰。當然我知調轉咗啦，既可突變，亦可以為漸變嘅。如晝夜啦，四季嘅轉變啦，屬於漸變啦。酷暑間降薄，氣溫驟降屬突變。一般而言，這種轉化發生在運動變化的極端階段，即係物極必反啊！就係當陰陽消長發展到一定階段咧，事物嘅內部陰陽嘅比例出現顛倒，使該事物的陰陽屬性隨即轉化。人體而言咧，實熱症嘅病人出現急性嘅高熱啦、面紅啦、咳喘啦、氣粗啦、脈索而有力咧，反映其熱邪咧就極盛啦，元氣可能已經大傷咯，有可能出現呢個面色蒼白、四肢缺懶、精神萎靡、脈微欲絕嘅虛寒症表現。呢種極端嘅轉化正是由於熱勢極盛而引起嘅咁樣樣。係啦，好啊，冇漏 point 啦，好啦，最尾啦，已經係陰陽自和，即係你唔理佢咧，佢慢慢搞完一輪之後咧，佢咧就會互相制約翻，即係最終都會達至平衡。 好，舉個例子啊。嗱，咁嚟啊！好，個陰陽字和，嗰個例子九唔搭八嘅，但係都叫有例子嘅。我揾唔到個例子嘅，係啦。陰陽自和是指陰陽兩方自然都有維持平衡和恢復穩定的趨向和能力。自和乃係陰陽嘅本性，其機理乃係雙方互相依存，你中有我。雖然雙方屬性相反，卻互相滋生、互相轉化、互相制約、互相利用，反而在變化中相反相成，究竟維持了協調和平衡的狀態。例如人體 的陰陽有能力自動恢復協調，以維持健康。然而，當陰陽的動態平衡受到破壞，卻因陰陽兩虛而又失去自和的能力，在人體而言就會產生嚴重嘅疾病，乃至於死亡。好，哇，變翻到正常嘅字體先。正常嘅字體咧就係其實正常嘅字體正常係幾多啊？18啊？可唔可以隔開啲啊？屌你！唉，好啦，好，唉，叫做做完啦。睇下寫幾多隻字先。如果有1000就應該會死啊！我唔想寫咁多啊嘛，其實越少越好。仆街1,200啊！唉，屌，唔寫咁多啊，好煩。唉，有鳩佢。好，咁我交功課先。咁啊，噼啪樂壇嘅時間陣間就繼續。
睇完節目記得 like、comment 同埋 share 我哋嘅 channel，收睇最強頻道，訂閱熱血時報。